Notification saying that we're live. Oh, goodness. It's Thursday. All right, here we are. It's the All About Nothing podcast kind of daily show. I am Barrett Gruber. I'm here with Bill Kimler, who is the host of Black, White, and Blue in the South that released a brand new episode for season 3. I listened to it. It was
Hey,
fantastic. I especially like my shout outs. I'm
yeah,
I'm not sure if there's a little bit of passive aggressiveness about uh or I guess satire maybe in what we well I guess me getting you up at 5:30 to make sure
ooh.
your makeup's on and you're dressed and
It has forced a habit change too. I agreed to this because I'm normally up 5 o'clock in the morning anyway. But 5 o'clock in the morning is me dicking around in bed for a half hour, looking at videos, scrolling through Facebook,
sure.
getting up, making coffee. Then I read, and I'm still in my pajamas. But I got to look pretty for this show. So I don't get all that slow wake up routine. I got to roll out of bed into the shower and work on this magnificent facade that you see.
Before we started recording, we were talking about how you had made the pledge that you weren't going to acknowledge the dumb stuff that Donald Trump does and talks about, things like that. And then I drew it right out of you by pointing out the whole Donald Trump was upset that the flags were going to be at half staff. I posted a video, uh, comments between uh comments between me and some of the people that have seen the video, and I'm always amazed at how the the intent of a lot of my videos isn't necessarily to change anybody's mind. But if I do something like that and I point out, look, here's the evidence where what Donald Trump said was a lie. Um, I know I'm not going to change anybody's minds. But
I wonder if there's any issue at all, political, social, otherwise, that you and I would disagree on.
I don't know. When I was married the first time, I think I took on a character personality of a much more conservative individual because the family that I was marrying into was extremely conservative. Um, and then when I did it the second time, I decided I was like, oh, I'm not going to change my personality. I looked at it, they're marrying into me. So at one point I was in favor of capital punishment. I absolutely am not anymore. um i i I was of the I had sort of molded myself into this idea that gun rights supersede freedom of speech and things like that, and I'm not anymore because it's asinine. It's just dumb.
Yeah.
um so I don't know.
The only thing I could think of is that, the Atlanta Falcons are a team worth playing in the NFL. But aside from that,
I would like to point out, who did your Philadelphia Phillies lose to this year? There were there were
um,
there were a
the
couple teams.
Phillies play baseball, so I'm not sure
Yeah, I'm
who.
sorry, the Eagles.
uh, yeah, it's early for you too, buddy. Get that coffee going.
The Eagles. Who did the Eagles lose to? I think the Falcons.
Yeah, they did, and that was the same game where the Eagles' entire offense was out injured. So you were playing basically against Philadelphia Technical College, and you squeaked out a victory. Yay!
Yeah, circumstances be what they are. Look,
Congrats.
I told Villardo, I said, when he was on the show, the episode this week, I told him, I said, I don't look at it as the Atlanta Falcons losing to Tampa Bay because they beat them twice this year. I look at as Tampa Bay advanced to the level of champion for the NFC South because the other teams in the NFC lost. And
It's the
I don't.
Peter principle for football, right? You rise to your level of incompetence, and then you're out. Hey,
That's
by the way,
exactly correct.
excellent episode. For those of you that haven't had a chance to listen to the All About Nothing podcast with Matt Villardo, I was riveted the whole time. Fantastic behind the scenes stories of what it's like to run for public office, the drama that seems to surround Matt. Wherever I've run for office twice, and you know, I've not encountered any of the drama that he has. But then again, I'm not from as populated of a county as he's from. York County's start up and coming and growing. Here in Greenwood, nobody knows anybody. It's all small, but still, the fact that Villardo's campaign drew in attention from other representatives
Oh
in
yeah.
other counties and districts. That was interesting.
And I don't know if you saw the news that broke yesterday, and Fitz News, which in my opinion, Fitz News is borderline news.
Yeah.
But South Carolina House Republicans have tapped a social media firebrand to be their communications coordinator for the next 2 years, and that is House Representative Brandon Guffey.
All right.
I'm assuming that's because of all of the Republicans in the House in South Carolina, he is the only one that knows how to turn the microphone on or is fully versed in the QWERTY keyboard.
Yeah.
Is yeah, hey, I told Matt when he told me when he sent me the article, I said I look at it this way. Um, they the Republicans in the House, in whatever caucus it is, I guess the Republican caucus, I think that they look at Guffey and they say, well, there has to be somebody that kind of will go out and speak on our behalf. Um, but
I
if he
think the only
says,
other one they could have gone after was a guy named Representative Stephen Frank.
yeah,
And he's another young guy active on social media, but he might have pushed himself out of contention. And I posted a video about this on my Political Bill SC page. He decided to jump into some conversation. I don't even know what the conversation was, but he had to put a comment underneath that said, quote, "I'm just happy we can say the R word again." Quote. Now, and he spelled out the R word. He didn't, he just wants to be able to say it. And that was his comment. And in fact, when I initially posted a video about it, I had read his quote word for word,
sure.
and TikTok took it down for community violation. So I couldn't even say the word that he decided that he wanted to be happy he could say again on social media. So they probably said, Stephen Frank, no. And his website is full of, I'm the holiest Christian out there. Everything I do is Christian principles. Bob Jones the third endorses me, and all that crap. But he's happy
I
he can
saw
say the R word again.
I saw somebody post something about that they thought that they were more Christian than Jesus, and I couldn't help myself, so I responded, "Yeah, probably because Jesus was Jewish." Look, I I I I often look at things that people post, especially like acquaintances and things like that on Facebook or whatever. Some of the things that they post, and I'm just like, did you give this even a second thought before you put it up? Like, was there any like, did you anticipate at all that maybe there would be, you know, I think what people should do is maybe just assume that Barrett's going to think the worst in what they've posted, or how is Barrett going to interpret this?
Yeah, yeah. Everybody should, it would be a WWBD
What would
little
Barrett
bands that you're wearing around your wrist. What would Barrett do?
but it would be capital W, capital W, lowercase b, and then T. What would Barrett think? What
Uh,
so yeah, so this was the article from Fitz News yesterday. And this face right here, I'm not 100% certain that Brandon Guffey is all that young looking. I want he's, this looks like one of the IRA bombers. Again, for entertainment purposes only. But he looks like somebody that would walk out of a North Ireland bar, and
so
then
notice that the headline has the word Republicans in quote. Why do you think that is?
so that's what I was going to get to. I think that they have in Brandon Guffey found a scapegoat. So if they do something and Brandon Guffey has to go to social media or be the guy that stands in front of the cameras, that he is now the face of whatever appalling things the Republicans will try to do in the House this year. Like I think that is I think someone had some decent forethought to say, okay, who's the biggest schmuck out there right now that we could potentially burn and still have, do they care about York County, the Republicans? Probably not. I mean, the likelihood is that its vicinity to Charlotte, North Carolina.
All right, can you take his picture down? Why do I got
I'm
to keep
sorry.
staring at him? Good Lord.
Hold on, I gotta figure out how to do it. There we go.
Oh,
You feel better?
oh, oh my
Um,
God.
the vicinity to Charlotte, I think the likelihood is that York County is going to continue to tend towards blue. I mean, the population there is expanding out from Charlotte, and Mecklen County is very blue, very diverse. I mean, even in my canvassing for Matt last year for the election, the number of homes that I went to that were Indian, or the number of, and I know that the list that I'm going off of is purely just Democrats, but it even the houses I didn't go to, I recognized that there was a lot of diversity. Now, are they registered voters? I don't know, but I don't think that the Republicans in 10 years see them holding on to a York County. Greenwood. I mean,
I disagree. I think that the Republicans think that they will reach 100% Republican representative status. They think that and what in history would dissuade them from that belief, because every year they've gained seats and have lost none.
that's
But
true.
I see that they can make the House and Senate not just a supermajority, but a unitary party.
I
I think they believe that.
it's well, I'm not concerned with what they believe.
Yeah.
My belief is that the population is going to tend. South Carolina is still a very popular state to move to, even though your kids aren't going to get educated, or the likelihood is your kids are going to have to go to a voucher. You
Yeah.
all talked
So
about
I
in the last episode.
talking about the voucher stuff. I've watched this. This is a thing that I've started to do over the holiday break. I kind of get in my mind a project I want to work on. And the project is this session, I wanted to watch every minute of every committee and subcommittee that is recorded. And then take the notes and see who's saying what and take clips of it and share it out there with some commentary. That's kind of the political uh, venue that I want to pursue outside of running for office. So now this is how I've shifted into things. So over the winter, I got my pattern up and running. Technically, how am I going to do it? I'm downloading every video. I've got my methodology worked out. And it was work. It was enjoyable work. I loved it. If I could get paid to do it, I would do it all day, every day. So I'm trying to squeeze it in between a job and other things that I'm doing.
Yeah.
Well, then this week hit, and on Tuesday alone, 19 hours worth of committee hearings dropped on the SC Gov website. And I just looked and I went, oh, and it was a lot of hearings and a lot of stuff that we're talking about. And I watched maybe 3 hours worth. Now I watch it at 2 times speed, to try to
Yeah.
really get through it. And I've got subtitles on it to help, etc. But I don't know if I'm going to be able to pull off my goal, man.
I
They meet too much. They have too many too many meetings.
I think you're going to have to prioritize which issues are the most important and which
Yeah,
ones are Trojan horses. Like,
they're all interesting. Like I last night before I went to bed, I was watching a joint hearing about men's prostate health. Like I kid you not, and it was an hour, over an hour long, hour 15 minutes, and I found it actually quite fascinating. And they're talking about what legislation that they could do to make PSA tests available around the state through mobile units like breast cancer screenings are. Let's make these PSA tests for prostate cancer available for men. And I was like, yeah, I could support that legislation. And when they turn it into law, that's where the rubber hits the road.
yeah, so in that situation, like, I so we have wives and friends that are
No, no,
women.
no, 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 no. You make it sound like we're Mormons with multiple wives. We
Sorry,
we
you're
each
right.
have a wife.
We have singular our own, and I'm not going to say our own. I don't own anyone. I just want to clarify that. But there's always been this I've never been through a mammogram, and men should there are men that should probably consider getting mammograms as well, because breast cancer isn't just a woman thing. But you see a guy going into a prostate bus, you know you know what's going on.
Okay. Okay, well, there's nothing wrong with that. So they're going in for a dickogram, and you got to get it done and take the stigma out of it. And the guy that was chair of that committee, and I forget his name, but he was a prostate cancer survivor himself, and relatively young guy. I'd put him maybe in his mid 50s,
Yeah.
and his father had passed from prostate cancer. And even though he's a Republican, it was refreshing to be involved in a hearing that had zero political bent one way or the other. And so it was doctors and representatives and volunteers with the Cancer Society, et cetera, all talking about how can we improve the situation of prostate cancer among men in South Carolina. And I was like, wow, these are the kind of hearings that make it worthwhile to watch.
Yeah.
Now, watching the school voucher hearing, good Lord. And there truly is just one party, one side of the representatives that's asking serious questions like, why are we bypassing all the procedures we normally follow? We have all new legislators. We've got a new bill here. We've got a new Supreme Court. Why are we skipping the processes of holding debates in subcommittee, holding public testimony, going through the motions? And the Republican Greg Hembry that's in charge of that committee in the Senate, he's like hemming and hawing with some BS mumble words, and they don't care. They're
Yeah.
going to ram it through regardless. So there's one side that's using logic and facts and asking serious questions, and the other side's like, nah, we don't care.
So the big issue with this voucher program is it basically is they can't privatize public education in South Carolina. I mean, they have not figured out how to do it and get it past everyone. So in a lot of states, they have a voucher program that if you meet a certain criteria, that you can receive a voucher for your child to go to a private school or a charter school. And in my opinion, whether it's private or charter, they're all for-profit schools. I can't look past the fact that there are schools out there that are receiving money to teach your students. Some of the teachers at some private schools are paid pretty well, but for the most part, you don't have to have an education, any sort of an educational background. You can come into a charter or a private school as just anybody off the street. I'm sure you have to meet some criteria to pass through HR, but I don't think it's as rigorous as what the public education school
Did you
system
go to a
requires.
private school at all as a
I
kid?
didn't.
I did.
I dated
I
girls that went to private school.
I went. Okay, well, good. That makes you an expert. Well done.
100%. My adjacent relationship to things makes me expert at stuff.
Again, it all comes back to owning women for you, doesn't it, Barrett?
Oh my god.
Uh, so no, I went through the Catholic school system. So
Okay,
I went to a private religious school. It's not like I had a choice in the matter. My parents didn't ask me. I just went.
sure.
And yeah, I was taught classes by nuns and priests. Sex ed came from a priest. So if you want to talk about qualifications, it's like, okay, this is a guy that doesn't even know how to work the mechanics here. He's going to teach me about the birds and the bees.
Father McHenry, how do you know anything about this? You're a priest. He goes, "You know, you were
And I've
3."
told the story before. I do think sex education is very important in the school system because
Sure.
not all parents are equipped to have that conversation.
Oh, yeah.
I'll tell you, my dad, when he had the talk with me, it was literally the night before I went off to college.
Yeah.
So I went to college 2 hours away, stayed on campus. And so the night before, I'm up watching TV. I'm kind of nervous, excited. I'm only 17. And he comes down, sits next to me, and he says, son, you're going off on your own, and you'll be making decisions, and just just don't go putting things where they don't belong. You know what I mean? And I'm like, yes, Dad, get out of here. Oh, go. He was like, whew, good talk. And then he left. Like that was it.
Well,
Not equipped to have the conversations.
I told you, so I went to public education system. I went to DeKalb County school system. I graduated from DeKalb County school system in Atlanta, Georgia, and we had health classes where sex ed was part of those health classes. And I want to say it was only like maybe our eighth grade, ninth grade year. But I don't remember the specifics exactly of what was said. But my father, we were sitting in his Mazda Miata outside of the DeKalb County um, Board of Education building, and and he so the sex ed conversation that I had with him was, "They teach you all about sex ed in school?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "All right." That was it. That was it.
Huh.
And honestly, I know my mom's gonna watch this, and she probably already knows. But by the time I had that conversation, I had already had experience, so it wasn't.
Well, there's already time for your mother to just have that sit down talk with you and give you some perspective. So there's still a chance.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Is your time having kids done?
Oh, for sure.
For sure.
Yeah, no. So when we had the girls, we had to go through IVF,
Yeah.
because between my chemo and then also working in radio stations with microwave transmitters and receivers like in the building, having to be the one to change the light bulb on the transmitter in the back of the radio station, the small WIMO AM 1300 in Winder, Georgia. Um, the I pretty much sterilized myself. So
Wow.
yeah, kids is yeah, we're done at 40, and I'm 45. That's the kids. The world is overpopulated. Um, I have concerns about how what resources are going to be available for my children, 30 years from now.
Yeah.
And for me, because I'm gonna still be here 30 years from now.
Well, I've got two biological kids with my first wife. They were born when I was in my early to mid 20s.
Okay.
So I was a young dad. Two kids, but it came through five pregnancies. So there were some difficult pregnancies, one lost child in the middle of all that. So after, and then my wife also had some severe health issues, after the second pregnancy. So at the age of 25, I got snipped,
Oh, okay.
said, we're done with kids. And I took care of it. I said, and I had to think hard. I said, even if everybody was to die in a tragic car accident, would I ever want kids in the future? Of course, 25-year-old me said no. I was set. So I had that done. Now the first marriage lasted about 10 years, but I can't tell you how attractive being snipped made me in the dating scene. I got to tell you, it was it was such a positive, for a guy who's in his 30s, out there, and the ladies that are available, that's like number one on my dating resume, snipped, and they're like, "Hello, Bill."
You you can tell me not to show this, but I have your Christmas card right here, and
Okay.
if you're okay,
I was
I'll
gonna
just.
say you had my surgery pictures. Now,
Yeah.
what you're seeing there, these are my stepdaughters. So those are the daughters that belong to my current wife. They're her children.
Okay, so Amanda, right? And
Nope,
I don't.
that
Oh,
is that is Ava,
this is Ava, and this is
and then
Amanda.
Amber on the other side.
Amber. Wait, so Amanda's your
So my
biological.
biological kids, Amanda and Will, they're in their mid to late 20s.
Okay.
So and so it gets, at what point do you stop putting grown ass kids on the Christmas card? So I kind of made that call a couple
We
years back.
Oh, okay. We haven't gotten there yet. These ones are grown.
Yeah, yeah. Those are the step kids, Ava and
Okay.
Amber.
Okay. Okay. Amanda's getting married in May. Is that right?
That's right.
So this will be your first son-in-law.
Yeah,
You've been a son-in-law before. I mean, you're still
I've been
one.
a son-in-law all over the place,
Yeah.
sadly.
Um, did you ever have any, I guess, I'm trying to think of the word. Do you ever have any conversations, or like when you first met
Oh,
your
oh,
significant
I
other's father?
so my current, I had, not father. Um, the father-in-laws were fine. I had no issues, but the mother-in-law with my current wife, and the first conversation I ever had with her, I talked about my genitals. Now, this is a very conservative Southern Baptist family, right? So I'll tell you the story. this is over 10 years ago. I'm down at Myrtle Beach with my then, now wife, then girlfriend, and we were just enjoying the beach, and we were out in the water, and I stepped on something like wet and squishy out in the water. Like they freaked me out. We've been obsessed over jellyfish, so I stepped on one. I jumped up in the air, and my wife was right next to me. He says that was my foot. So funny little story. So anyhow,
Squishy.
we go out to dinner with her mother, where I met her mother for the first time. And very nice young lady, again, Southern Baptist, sweet as a pecan pie, just delightful lady. And then Carla says, "Tell her about the beach story." I was like, "Okay, I'll tell about the beach story." And I proceed to dive into a completely different story, not knowing that's what she was referring to. So the story that I told goes back to one time I was in Virginia Beach, and I was out in the water just enjoying the last day of the beach. And then I started feeling very uncomfortable in my nether regions. And it felt like pinpricks all around my groin. I'm like, what the? So I get out of the water, and it wasn't just me. In fact, there was a bunch of people that came out of the water, and we go to the little public showers that are right there in the sand. They have these public showers you can just rinse off the salt water.
Yeah.
What had happened was we had walked through a school of baby jellyfish, little tiny baby jellyfish that got caught up in all the hairs and stuff, and were just basically stinging the crap out of the nether regions. And
Oh.
so all of us, men, women, we're dropping drawers in public and literally hand picking these little jellyfish out of the hairs and rinsing off in the water, like modesty out the window. So I'm telling this beach story to my sweet pecan pie mother-in-law. And my wife is horrified. She's like, "Why are you telling her about your hairs?" That's not the story I was referring to. So yeah, I made a wonderful, great first impression.
I don't know what my first impression came across to my first father-in-law, but I know that when I was first introduced to him, my ex-wife at the time, or um, she took me to her house because I was gonna have Sunday dinner, so, or Sunday lunch or whatever, and, I walk into the house, and he's cutting celery with, an exaggeratedly large knife, and it was an attempted intimidation, uh, which I read almost immediately, and it was generic questions. What do you do? I work for NCR. What do you what how did you grow up? I grew up in a WASP family. We didn't go to church a whole lot. They were Catholic. I eventually became Catholic for the marriage, but found my way back to non-affiliated. But it was a weird interaction that I had with him because I didn't understand what it meant to have a father-in-law that would potentially threaten his daughter's boyfriend or whatever. But having daughters now, in my head, I want to play out the scene from Will Smith and Martin Short from Bad Boys, where the boyfriend shows up to pick the girl up for the first date, and he says to her, Martin Lawrence and Will Smith are interacting with him on the front porch, and Will Smith is playing like I don't know, a thug of some sort, but he says, "You ever been to prison? You ever been with a man?" It it's Bad Boys 2 is a fantastic all the Bad Boys movies are really good. They're very entertaining. But having daughters now, I regardless of who they grow up to be or what their preference is, anything like that, I wanna play the role of the intimidating father.
Wow.
And I don't know that I can pull it off, but I'll
Nope.
try.
No,
Probably
you
not.
cannot.
All right.
You're too
Uh,
lovable.
I appreciate that. That's very kind of you. All right, that's going to wrap it up for this episode of Kind of Daily Show. Make sure to check out Black, White, and Blue in the South, the newest episode published yesterday, episode number 50, back from uh,
The dead.
The election. I mean, and it was a great episode. It was a terrific episode. I really enjoyed it. You guys do so well. Dr. Jamil, we'll have to, if she's up at some, one of these mornings, we'll have to drag her on. But no,
You're also going
seriously,
to have to fix the end bumper at the end of the episodes.
I know. I've
You have
so
to fix that, buddy.
Yeah, I'll re-record that this weekend. I'll re-record that this weekend. I need to also give you the copyright 2025. I
Oh,
probably
I
haven't.
use no, that's out there. I
Oh,
use
did I
that.
upload that? Okay.
Yeah, that's in there.
But yeah, I'll fix that. I'll fix that this weekend. I'll get that taken care of. I mean,
So Noah,
it'll still be wrong for all 200 and something episodes before that, but yeah, we'll get that. I'll get that fixed. So Black, White, Blue in the South. Check out the podcast available wherever you listen to podcasts as well as YouTube. And the All About Nothing podcast episode with Matt Villardo is out right now. Zach and I recorded a little short episode last night because
oh,
he is not going to be able to join me at Soul House, which is in Columbia, South Carolina, across the street from the Blue Marlin. Soul House is a local art studio. We're going to be recording an episode with Donald Brock Jr., who is the coordinator for the Soda City Comic Con, Wilmington Comic Con, or Coastal Comic Con, and the Myrtle Beach Boardwalk Comic Con. So we're going to sit down with Brock on Saturday to record an episode that'll come out next week, talking all about the Coastal Comic Con, because we're really going to start building up for that here, because I don't know if they consider me one of the talents, but I have been working on my list of requirements for my appearances, which I'm going to present to Brock on the episode. So
okay.
that should be entertaining. So, all right, that's going to do it. Thank you much, Bill. You have a terrific weekend. Everybody, you all stay safe, be kind, and keep your hands to yourself. Thank you, Bill. That was really good.
Yeah.
And seriously, the episode yesterday was fantastic.